you.
Yeah. Don't gaslight us, because she's a fucking gaslighter. So is David Sirota. Yeah, this is Dirty Indy, late night,
Look
angry
into
injury.
the gaslight.
Indy. Yeah. Top outlets. Another one. Popular Resistance, which picked up Portside. So we got Portside. Ron Kaminkow, who is a rail worker himself. We would never concede our right to strike, because there was some kind of conversation, apparently. View of Union Pacific workers as the railroad, blah, blah, blah. That's what the image was. On April 11th, Jacobin, our friends over at Jacobin, not really, Jacobin sucks, published a transcript of an interview by editor-at-large David Sirota with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-CIA-Cortez. In the context of a general discussion.
I'm still a piece of garbage.
Yes, she is. In the context of a general discussion about differences between the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, you mean still supporting the corporatists, and the Biden administration, of which there is no difference, the subject of the vote to break the strike of the railroad workers, of course, came up. Well, in defending her votes, one to approve 7 days of sick leave for rail workers, and to support the president's bill to block the strike, Ocasio-Cortez states that she was acting on the wishes of the Railroad Workers Union, the RWU, and other groups of railroad workers. She states in the interview, when you look after the vote, folks like RWU are saying, this is what we asked them to do. Later, she says, because, for example, with the rail vote, the only partners I had leading up to the vote to that were rail workers, and if that's what they asked us to do, then that's what we did. No, that's not what happened.
No.
But, of course, AOC is clouding the reality of the situation by referring to the vote, when in fact there were two separate and distinctive votes. One bill proposed 7 days of paid sick time, while the other bill blocked rail workers from striking. Those bills were completely independent of one another. Thank you, lying, gaslighting AOC. RWU cannot speak with any certainty as to what the official position of the various craft unions' respective leaderships was on the question of blocking the strike, but RWU made crystal clear by our words and actions throughout contract negotiations that while we were, of course, in full support of 7 days of paid sick leave for rail workers, RWU would never be in favor of any legislation denying railroad workers our human right to withhold our labor when all else fails in our struggle for safe working conditions and dignity, regardless of whatever concessions may be dangled. Yeah. RWU was and is in favor of any legislation that would grant any relief to the barbaric working conditions we contend with. But we would never concede our right to strike. We thank AOC and other House members.
But they did.
What? Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Well, no, they didn't.
Go ahead.
We thank them.
Right, they didn't.
For their votes in support of sick leave, but we're not happy at all with her or others in both chambers who voted to deny railroad workers the right to strike. Throughout the contract fight that raged, of course, throughout last fall, RWU made it clear from the start, and we've covered that we unequivocally opposed the failure of the Presidential Emergency Board 250, that we opposed any tentative agreement based on the PEB recommendations, that we opposed the contract deal cut by Joe Biden and Labor Secretary Marty Walsh with the unions of operating crafts.
Well, and that's where,
right?
With Twitter had to cover this too, because they had to put it under Joseph Biden's tweet, where he's like the best union president I've ever seen.
Well, that was this week, right? So, but this was the BLET,
right,
and the smart workers. All right, the transportation division, that we urged all trainmen and engineers to vote no and proceed to a strike. I believe there was over a 90% vote, and when all that was said and done, votes were cast. We supported the majority of rank and file railroad workers who had voted to strike, which is 55%, yeah, more than a majority, all right, to engage in such activity upon the strike deadline in early December. They kept trying to run out the clock on these guys. Meanwhile, throughout the entire contract debacle, the official leadership of the myriad unions thwarted efforts of their respective memberships to strike and continually offered up unpopular tentative agreements. Then when Biden declared he wanted an emergency legislation to block the strike without amendments on an up or down strict vote, the union leadership said nothing. Perhaps it was within this context that AOC got confused about Hugh.